This tutorial will dive deeper into Darby orders, specifically the different order statuses and what they mean. So I'm going to click on orders on the left and then select an order from the list. So this order is currently in an entered status. And basically your orders, there are 5 stages to the order process, if you will. The first stage is you got the go-ahead to stage a home and you start deciding what you're going to put into this house. So you create your sales order and you start adding your items, and that is explained in part 1 of creating orders. So we won't go through that in this tutorial. So you start entering your items, and when items are in this entered status, you could see that the order itself is in entered as well as each item. And that means that those items remain in on hand. So they don't move from the on hand category. The next step is, once you've decided, okay, this job is about complete. We have added all the items that we think are going into the house, but we're not actually staging it until later this week or next week. So you're done creating the order, you've decided on everything. The next step, however, is to go up to actions and say reserve order. And that will put all of the items in this reserved status. And what that means is the items are still at your warehouse or at your storage location. They're not at the house yet, but they are reserved for this job. So that keeps other team members, perhaps, or even you yourself, from trying to add items that are not available to other sales orders. And you can see that now the on-hand quantity has been reduced and the reserved quantity has been increased. So it's saying this Ashton sofa is reserved for this job. So let's look at this from the product side. If I click on products and bring up the Ashton sofa, for example, you can see again, I have 3 on hand, 1 is reserved, 0 are rented. And if I click into the details, I can click on active orders and see that this item is reserved at this particular order. So that's what it looks like on the product side. Now you can unreserve items from an order. You can also add additional items to this order once it's been reserved. So for example, let's say that we want to add another item, and let's see, we'll add, I don't know if I have another piece of artwork. Let's see here. We'll add the gauge area rug. This might already be on here, I can't remember. We'll put that in the living room. Click save. And there it is. I just want to make sure I didn't add it twice. So now there's the gauge area rug added to this order, but note that this is still in an entered status. And this is where people get hung up, I believe. When you add additional items, once you've reserved or fulfilled an order, you simply need to do that again. So now I also want to point out this order says that it's partially reserved, and it's partially reserved because you have some reserved items and you have 1 entered item. So let's look at that from the dashboard. It shows you that there are some incomplete orders, and incomplete orders are any orders that are partially reserved or partially fulfilled. So all we need to do is go to that order, go to actions, say reserve order, and now all of the items are reserved and the order returns to a reserved status. So again, just make sure when you add additional items that you reserve the order again. The next stage is when you actually stage the house. So I recommend that you leave your order in reserved until you stage the house. And I recommend that because inevitably you will make changes to this order. So for example, let's say we went ahead and we staged this house and we decided that we only needed one of these pieces of art. So I'm going to go back in. Oh, hold on, I need to unreserve this item. Let's go to view order again. I'm going to select this item, click unreserve selected items. Now it's back in an entered status, so I can edit the item and change the quantity and then click save. Now I'll need to reserve this order again, and I know this sounds like a lot and a little bit complicated, but it gets easier as you learn the process. So I'm going to reserve the order again, and now it matches what's in the house. So there's only one item that is reserved now, 7 that are on hand. So once you stage the house, you come back and you reconcile the order. So you remove any items that you didn't use, and it may just be that you remove it altogether. So for example, if we did not end up using this gauge rug, I will unreserve this, unreserve that item, and then I will delete it altogether. So we'll say we brought 2 rugs because we wanted a choice and we only ended up using one of those. The final step, as far as staging the house goes, is next you will fulfill this order. So you're telling the system that all the items that are on this order are what's in the house. So basically it matches, Darby matches what is in the house. So that final step is I will fulfill this order. I keep the fulfill date as the actual staging date, and I click fulfill. And the reason why I do that is, say we stage the house at the end of the day, but we don't actually reconcile it until the next day. I don't want the billing should start on the staging date, not necessarily on the fulfill date. So I always choose the fulfill date as the staging date, regardless of when I reconciled. So now you'll see that this order and the items are fulfilled. And it will remain this way until we actually destage this house. So let's again take a look to see what this looks like on the product side. So I'll click products, and again I'll bring up that Ashton sofa. And now you'll see that there are 3 on hand. There are none in reserved because we fulfilled this order, and 1 has been rented. So again, if I click on this item, active orders, it's at this address, the status is fulfilled, and we know that that item is at this house and attached to this order. On the dashboard, you'll see that the partial status has been removed, and it just shows that this is a recently added order, and now we have 1 order that is fulfilled. So let me return to orders. Now once an order is fulfilled, again, Darby thinks that that is a complete order. So if you happen to fulfill the order before it was time, or if something happened and for some reason an item needs to be returned once the order has been fulfilled, that's what you need to do. Once the order has been fulfilled, you can't just delete or unreserve that item. You do have to go through the return status. So let's say we decided that we really only wanted to use 1 of these fiddle leaf fig trees, but we forgot to remove it so before we fulfilled, so now we need to return it. So if you just click the little back arrow here, those are your returns. I'm just going to return 1 of these, and I'll just say didn't use second tree and click return. Now there's only one that's rented. And again, if we go on the product side and click this fiddly fig, you can see it's still on active orders. And really what I wanted to show you was what that return looked like. So hold on. If we go to this item, click on the returns tab, you'll see that one item was returned on that date. You can delete that return and it will return to the original 2 items. So that is what some of these inventory statuses mean. Again, once you work through this process, it goes very quickly, and you just, again, I want to help you to understand. So you have entered, reserved, and rented, and those are the different statuses for your orders.